Welcome to Fly on the Wall podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sonksen, CEO and founder of Church Boom. Here you get to sit in on a live coaching session as I coach pastors through the ministry challenges we all face. If you find this podcast helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Hey, welcome to the podcast today. We're talking with my good friend Dan Nalley from Sacramento, California. And before we do that, actually, make sure you go to churchboom.org. If you've never checked that out, we got a lot of great resources there. Church Boom University, you can be a part of ongoing learning. You can be a part of getting your church rescued. If you're under 100 and you feel like you're stuck and you just need help, that's totally free. We've got executive coaching. We just got a lot of great things to offer there. So make sure you check that out. We're talking with my friend Dan today. We're talking about a lot of things. We talked about building projects. We talked about keys to going multi-site. It was a great conversation. Hope you enjoy it. Man, how can I serve you today, man? What's on your mind and how can I help?
Yeah, I appreciate the help. Couple questions I got. Number one, when an existing church takes over, an existing stable church, 25 years, takes over a site campus that's 15 minutes away, just a handful of people rebuilding, is it better to try to establish team leads or leadership, the leaders at the new site, or for the sake of culture, try to use the leads I have now because they're only 15 minutes away?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, to answer that question, the culture. So I'm going to kind of back up to that question. When you're taking over a campus, which I think will be part of your future, it's already happening, and I think there'll be more coming. The key to everything is to make sure that the DNA and the culture is matching. And part of that matching and that DNA culture is making sure that you're infusing it properly. And so to answer, the short answer is, if it was me, I would be using people from the church with the idea they're going to mentor them and pass it off to them.
Okay.
But I mean, that's the way that I would do it, because I want to assure that culture is right, that the vibe is right, the feel is right, the energy is right, all of that's right. To teach them, to teach someone, here's what it is. To teach someone at an amusement park in some other country that's never been to Disneyland and say, operate it like Disneyland. Okay, well, what does that mean? Just got to be really clean and fun, because Disneyland's always clean, it's always fun. It's like, they got to come to Disneyland. Yeah. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine that is executive for In-N-Out hamburgers. Like, it's not, works at the In-N-Out offices, the corporate offices. When they opened up their first one in Texas several years ago, they put a bunch of employees from Southern California, where it all originated. They put them on flights and were rotating in the workers. So half the workers at In-N-Out were from Southern California in Texas, and half of them were from Texas. And they did that for 6 months until they caught the culture.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's big.
That is big. So think about, a hamburger place going, it's so important that we're going to, for 6 months, pay tens of thousands of dollars in flights and hotels, because we've got to get this first one right in Texas. The very first one in Texas was infused with Southern California employees.
That's good.
And now flip it over to the church. We just say, okay, well, just run the usher group, run the worship group, run this group. It's like, well, wait a minute. Who's infusing them? I would put them on a certain amount of months that this leader from the original campus is working with this new campus. They work together. Okay. Ultimately, I'm going to pass it off to you. That's probably going to be in about 6 months, but I really want you to catch the DNA.
Good.
I need you to catch the culture, because the culture is what, in my opinion, is what will derail everything in your multi-site. You have to get the culture right. And my opinion is, the way you get that culture right is you put them around the right people and start training them. And that's everything. Worship all the way down. It's so important that they catch the culture. And the fact is that there might be a couple tough conversations, because you might have someone that is currently leading someone that comes in for 6 months and says, I'm going to help, but this person is never going to be able to lead it. because they may resist the new culture. That's a whole different set of problems. But when they resist that culture, that's a different issue altogether.
That's good.
But you can't be afraid to guard the culture.
Okay.
You can't be afraid to guard the culture. One of my friends has got a big church, about 10,000. He brought in a new executive pastor, and the executive pastor told me, I asked the executive pastor, I go, what did you say? What was your interview like when it was finally done and you had the job? He said, you can touch everything, but don't mess with the culture. And I just thought, wow, how just like that was the thing. We're protecting that at all cost.
So good.
Yeah. But you're going to have some people that are not going to want to adapt, and then you're going to have that tough conversation. That's not always fun.
Okay. So take the captains that have existingly, or the leaders, bring them over, infuse the culture, and then once it's set, then a nice transition would be okay.
A nice transition would be okay as long as that person's willing to accept the new culture.
Got it.
They may or may not be willing to, but if they are willing to, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. What else, man? What else is on your mind today?
Raising money for a new location. Mm-hmm. What would be your list? What are the things that most of us don't see as pastors transitioning, raising money, trying to get to occupy a new building? What are the things that people don't see? A list that you would say you have to do more than just check. We raised some money to move. What are maybe some of the underlying things, staffing things, other financial things? Kind of like your Chris Sonksen checklist of before you take that next step. The top, Chris's top. And
you're
10.
talking about raising money, just so I'm clear. Is it raising money for? I just want to make sure I'm clear. Raising money for this new campus, or raising money for the new building that you've been talking about?
No, well, we've raised a chunk of money.
Yep.
Now we're starting to search.
Yep.
So we've raised the desired amount to start searching and start asking and looking. What are some other things we need to be doing? Staffing wise, maybe other expenses outside of the initial money we raise, we need to be careful of, or any pitfalls of moving from a smaller location to a bigger.
Well, there's several. One is make sure you can manage whatever debt that you're going to take on for that new building. A lot of people I've heard somewhere in about the 25% range. So 25% being you don't want your payment to exceed 25% of what you're bringing in on a monthly basis. So you kind of, that threshold is like, well, hey, the payment's this much, but we got to make sure we're bringing in 75% more in regular income. That's one thing. Because I do think there's an old saying that we shape the building, then the building shapes us.
Wow.
And so we shape the building like, hey, I'm going to get this really big building. Well, now that you have that building, it's shaping how you do ministry, because you've took all that money and now you're just trying to raise money to make the payment every month, and you're dealing with this pressure, and you can't add this ministry and you can't add this staff. We shape the building, then the building shapes us.
That's good.
So we have to be careful that we don't let the building shape us in such a way that we're not able to do ministry, and we're not able to hire staff, and we're not able to reach our city, that it doesn't become the thing. Because if it becomes the thing, then we really miss out on everything. We're the ones that get more excited about the building than anybody else as pastors. At the end of the day, it's just stucco and drywall, and it's a building, and it's great, and it's nice, and it's wonderful. But after a while, it's a building. All of our people have walked into better buildings. They've walked into magnificent hotels, and they've walked into better buildings. It's not so, it's neat for us. But so be careful on that part of it.
Okay.
I would say also in the staffing side of things, I think you have to start digging the ditch for growth. You got to develop the staff, develop the leaders, start thinking, if we're going to get to that level, then if we're going to have growth, will we be able to handle it? So what we look at all the time is, can we handle the payment? Can we handle the building? If the building produces growth, that brings the next problem. Can we handle the growth? And a lot of people move into a building, I've seen it more than once, and man, they've got advertisement, they move to a great location, the promotion is good. Man, their opening month or two is like, wow. You know, it was like, man, just boom, the attendance went up. And then I just watch it after about 8 months go back to just barely higher than they were way over here at the other building because they didn't prepare for it. And they didn't figure out like, okay, if we were to grow, it's like walking in the children's department and saying, we got 100 kids or whatever the number is. Yeah. And if we have 400, are you ready? The answer is going to be no. All they're thinking in their mind is all I got to do is add more volunteers. It's like, no, absolutely not. The entire structure has to change. The thing I always liken it to, Dan, you've heard me say it before, is you take a kitchen table or whatever. I stand on it. You stand on it. Someone else stands on it. I don't know. By the fifth or sixth person, the thing collapses. Why? Because it's not made to handle this amount of weight. It's made to handle this amount of weight. Same thing with the church. It's like, hey, man, we're in it. We're growing. Yep. And you're going to come right back down to the weight that you can handle. Always you'll come back down to it. You always come back down to the weight that you can handle. So even if it's like takes off, people get a new building. Oh, my gosh, it's great. And first 3 months, they think they're Stephen Furtick or something. And and then it just goes whoop and it drops back down to the weight in which they can handle. So that's another thing I would think about. And the third and last thing I would think about, just kind of some checklist. There's a lot, I guess, but just to kind of bullet point some of the bigger rocks is think about leading up to a building and think about the months to follow. So everybody thinks about the grand opening. They don't think about the next day.
That's good.
It's like, yeah, okay, everybody was there for the grand opening, and everybody was there to wish you well. We call them well-wishers. They're there to wish you well on your opening day. And it's great. And you have a great opening day. But what happens for the next 90 days? What are we doing to sustain the growth, create the energy, continue to attract people, get people here, get them involved in ministry? We can't lose all of that. Getting a big crowd is like, yay, that hype is over. It's like Easter, yay, and everybody gets all hyper. I'm like, that's awesome. But
next
what
week,
about the next week? Grand opening is on May 1st. Okay, but what about May 2nd and for the next 5 months, 6 months?
Yeah.
You got to think about those things. So make sure that the building doesn't shape you. Make sure that you're prepared for growth, and make sure you're thinking about day one after the grand opening. Those are all the things that I would think about. I would be careful on how much. One other thing I would tell you is this. There's a balance between, okay, we found a building, we bought it, it needs a ton of renovation, and we got a bunch of people in the church that are going to do it. Somewhere there's a balance. First, for the lead pastor and the staff, where they become general contractors, and it's like, okay, but the church is suffering while we're focused over here. Is it worth the trade? Okay, problem one. Problem two, we got Tommy who does drywall, and but Tommy's got to make a living, and Tommy's going to do it at night, and then Tommy doesn't do the job and doesn't do it right, and now you got to kind of fire Tommy out of the job, which is really easy to do if Tommy doesn't go to your church. But if Tommy goes to your church, now you got to fire someone that goes to your church. Like, I have seen this play out so many times where I watch the church, not the building, the church fall apart while the pastor's playing general contractor.
Yeah.
And I've also watched, we're going to just get our church, instead of paying $500,000, we're going to pay $200,000 because we're going to have people in our church do it. You gotta make sure that
that's good.
You got to keep that in balance, man, because if you got to fire the drywall guy that goes to your church, that it's going to cost you more than just losing a drywall guy. He's going to be upset at you and all that. That's why the way that I'm not against using some people in the church. I'm not. But I would highly recommend that you remove yourself from the equation.
Okay.
You got hire George, the contractor. Hey, if you want to help, if you can help with renovations, see George. It's all about see the other guy. George can fire the guy and tell him, look, dude, we're going to pay for the drywall because you're dragging your feet. I know you're doing it for free, but we just can't wait any longer.
Okay.
They may still be upset, but it won't fall so much on you.
That's good.
Separating yourself is very important. Do not play general contractor.
Okay.
If you know how to hang drywall and you want to do that on a Saturday and go help some people, whatever, that's fine. But don't play general contractor, because you're the one that will get the blame for everything.
Okay.
And you're the one that's got to do the firing when someone inevitably doesn't get it done on time because they're working their day job and they're only giving you 7 to 9 in the evenings. And you're like, now the paint guys are waiting because the drywall guy is taking 4 months when it should have taken a month. I've been down this road many times. Remove yourself from being the contractor.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you.
Yep. What else you got, man?
When should you start thinking about a succession plan?
Oh, man.
I mean, I know we're all way too young for that, but when do you start thinking about that? When does that come to play? Is it when you see someone that's ready? Is it when there's a certain X amount of years? Watching a lot of different guys come to their end. I'm always watching forward and hearing a lot of guys at tables saying they don't know what they're going to do. If they're denominational guys, they can just bring someone else in if they have someone. But when you're an independent church, what is that? I mean, obviously, I got my eyes on some people, my family, my kids, and they're crushing it. Matter of fact, when I leave, they do great, sometimes better than me. So, but when does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into a succession plan. A lot that goes into a succession plan. And there's a lot of questions that are asked when I talk about succession. When I say succession, does it like, hey, you're multi-site and you're going to move kind of away, or are you moving out of the church? Like a multi-site guy I'm working with right now. Are you moving out of the church altogether? Or do you still want to kind of help expand? You got to think about what you see your life like if you were to hand this off. Is that person ready? Is there, the thing I always say is honor, trust, and no surprises. Honor, trust, and when there's a relationship happening in succession, whether that takes a year, takes 2 years, honor, trust, and no surprises. The new guy coming in decides, hey, we're going to start doing staff meetings at this time because I didn't like the way he was doing it. And you're still there, and you come walking in at Tuesday at 9:00 and nobody's there. You're like, yeah, I changed it. He's like, that's called a surprise. And you're like, not a problem. I mean, maybe it was a better time, good idea to change it, but you just did something that we didn't, I didn't know about. So I think you need to start thinking, ahead of, as you are, obviously. You got to start thinking, do I have a role in the future of this church once I'm done, or am I done altogether? And that's fine either way. You just need to know which one it is.
Yeah.
You need to, I think about your financial part. How you're the church planner. How long will the church bless you into retirement? How much are they going to help you? I think that's got to be discussed with the board. The new person in, there's got to be an agreement and a timeline laid out, and there's clarity of that timeline. And there's this thing that's going to happen. It's going to go like this, where they just start taking over, and then all of a sudden they're running it, and then you're gone, and or doing whatever next thing you're going to do, however that's going to look. I think all those things have to be thought through. I would, in your case, I don't know if you have a board, a financial board, or how that works in your world, but I would definitely, in your world, because I know you and your context very well, I would grab 2 or 3 advisory people like myself and others that would say, hey, I'm thinking about succession, and once every few months I'd like to get on a Zoom call and talk about it. Because you have 3 kids, and all of them are amazing, and you're probably thinking, I'm going to hand this off to one of them, which is great. That's fine. But you need to also have someone that sees it through the lens that's not blood related.
Good.
You have to have that. And your kids are amazing, dude. I love your kids. You know me. I love your kids. Yeah. But you do need someone on the outside having an honest conversation going, bro, he's not ready.
Yeah.
And he's got to watch that. And if he acts this way, that's not going to work good for the church. And like you need an advisory team that says, okay, we know what the plan is, but let us speak truth into it with love privately so we don't mess this up. Because blood can cause us to be blind.
Yeah, well, that's why I got you.
And you know I love your kids, but you also have to have honest conversations. Like, well, wait a minute, hold on,
Well,
there is go ahead.
Well, the goal is to hand it off well. The goal is not to hand it off. Nothing would, and just as a dad, nothing would break my heart worse than handing it off and it not going well, only because we didn't have the right people in the room. So the thought now is I'm definitely staying here, never going anywhere. My role would just lessen. Yeah. But I definitely would be here, sharing the workload, be a part of it. But no, that's good stuff, Chris. I appreciate it.
Well, when it gets a little bit closer, maybe that's 2 years from now, 4 years from now, whatever, when you're like, when you feel like I am 2 to 4 years away, 3 to 4 years away from wanting to switch lanes. I call it switching lanes. When you're 3 to 4 years away from switching lanes, whenever that is, I think that's when you bring a couple guys in like myself, a couple other buddies of yours, and we start, okay, we're going to go on a journey with you for the next couple of years. We're going to figure out who the person is. We're going to put that person in place. We're going to make sure that thing's right. And you need outside advice and you need outside honesty.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, this is your kid. He's awesome. But this is something that we need to talk to him about.
That's good.
Because we want the thing to go up.
Yeah.
We don't want 5 years of barely hobbling along and finally the person gets it. Like, no, we want to hand it to a fresh new runner that runs faster.
So good.
So that's what I would do.
Love it.
But man, these are great questions, dude. Look at you busting out with succession, building plans, and all sorts of stuff.
I came ready.
Well, that's awesome, man, dude. Unless you got anything else, I got another one I'm going to be jumping on in a couple minutes, another Zoom call. But
good to go,
man. Awesome. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for all that you do, man. You are a amazing leader. You're a fan of rescuing churches. You're all in with everything, and we love our partnership with you. And I love our partnership with you. Love your family very much. You guys are amazing.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, bud. Okay.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in to the Fly on the Wall podcast. We hope today's episode provided you with some practical steps to lead your church to the next level. If you found this episode helpful, take a moment to leave us a review and share it with others. Remember, when the pastor grows, the church grows, and we grow pastors. We love you. We're your raving fans, and we are cheering you on. See you next week.